name's Kevin Pearce, aka Suncutter, from Essex. Started playing guitar when I was 10, so that's like 30 years now. My musical education was my dad's record collection. So my dad was born in 1942, which made him like 18 when it was like 1960. His record collection's like from like kind of like the rockabilly era, like Bill Haley and the Comets, Eddie Cochran and stuff like that. And then goes like right through the 60s, obviously like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, stuff like that. And then kind of 70s stuff like Cream, Led Zeppelin. And I just like ingested all of that really as a kid. I can remember, quite vividly remember like actually putting the records on and Dad teaching me how to put the needle on without damaging the records. And sitting watching the needle like really closely, going around. But obviously at the meantime, I was like subconsciously ingesting all this stuff, all this music, which was quite good because I think like the music when I was growing up, it was popular, it was quite terrible. So it was good to kind of have that kind of proper education in it, just by listening to the music.
All together we will stand and fight the darkness that has taken up our life.
Started like writing stuff, like I started playing guitar when I was 10 and my mum bought a guitar off, there was a hairdresser lady around the road where we used to go and get our hair cut, and she bought this guitar for, it was like a tenner, I can remember. And I've still got the same guitar and I still use it for recording. And I just could just spend hours just trying things out. And that was kind of before I had lessons, just making noises on it and stuff. And then I had like a few lessons at primary school and it was okay. And like learned a few of the basics and stuff. But then for me, it was just like, I wanted to do it myself and learn myself. And I can remember watching Woodstock, the Jimi Hendrix set, and sitting for hours copying what he was doing with his hands. And that kind of got me hooked and obsessed with guitar. And from that, I started writing little bits. And then I think it was like grunge was quite big when I was a kid. And I sort of like, I quite like the sound of grunge, just all this noise. And so I started writing like these kind of little grungy sounding songs on a little acoustic classical guitar. And it kind of started from there really. I had a mate who, he had piano lessons and he could play piano quite well, but he also could play guitar. So we just started like jamming together. And then we just would do that. I'd go around his house for tea and stuff and we'd just play guitar together like for ages. And then from that come little lyrics and little like choruses. And like, yeah, looking back, they was like really simple, not particularly great or anything, but that was like the first step into it. And then from there, I kind of, when I went to secondary school, I kind of lost touch with music. I didn't play for ages. And then I picked up again when I was about 16. One of my mates wanted to start a band. He said, "Oh, do you want to be in it? You can play guitar." I said, "I haven't played in a few years, but yeah." And then I just got hooked again. And then like from out of my teens, sort of into my 20s, I found people like Nick Drake, John Martin, Tim Buckley and all that kind of music. And I was just like, okay, so they're writing songs, but they're doing this other thing with them. And I wanted to do that. I didn't just want to write kind of nice songs for people to listen to. I wanted something else with it, like a touch. And then, yeah, so it was probably like my early 20s where I really started, okay, I think I could be all right at this, and just working it. I'm writing hundreds of songs, most awful, most terrible. But then like you get one or two out of like loads. And then that slowly over the years became, I didn't have to write as many and could kind of just piece together the good bits. Yeah, I kind of could get a shortcut to doing it, if that makes sense. I think like the best stuff I write happens really fast and I don't know where it comes from and it falls out the sky. And then I'm like, I've got this thing, okay, da-da-da. That bit, love that bit. Write a second bit because it just flows off the back of it. And And usually like the best stuff on the whole happens within 20 minutes, half an hour. And the whole thing's written. And then like going away and recording it and how you want to kind of paint the sound, so to speak, that can take a while. But as long as like the core of the song is strong, and you sort of know when it is, because I write a lot of other songs that don't get through the net really. I sort of filter them. It's like, nah. And usually that's when I'm trying to write a song. If I sit down to try and write, it's not very good usually, because I'm in the way of it. I'm standing in the way of the song. If I can move myself out of the way, and I think that's like with a lot of things, if you can get yourself out of the way, usually that's where the magic stuff happens, like stuff you can't quantify. Yeah, very rarely do I sit down and go, right, I'm going to write a song and something good comes out of it. It's just usually you're meandering through your day, might pick the guitar up, or I might just hear something in my head, a melody. Oh, I like that. And then that's it. Let's start pen and paper, write the whole thing out, usually very, very quickly. I love playing live because it's a chance to communicate what you're doing with other people. And I sort of, when I started doing my own stuff, when I wasn't in bands, it was kind of my own solo stuff under my own name, and obviously now Suncutter more so. I started out like playing in folk clubs when they'd have like open spots where you could just go take a guitar and sing like one or two songs. No microphones, no amplification, anything. And then I used to do that quite a lot just to kind of test the water and see where I was at. And then from that you can kind of improve, because you're practicing your craft in a live environment, because you can rehearse something to death and you can think, yeah, I know that's going to be fine. And you go and perform it and it's all different. The lights are different, people are different. There's a noise over there, someone dropped a pint glass over there. And all of that stuff's like, you can't prepare for that. So you kind of have to, it's almost like you're training yourself to deal with that stuff. And then when you get to play bigger places, or you go on tour with other acts or whatever who are playing like big places, all that stuff you can block out because you've already trained yourself to kind of do it, you know, and then just try and stay in the moment.
I wanna see my soul crying. I wanna see my soul crying. I wanna be myself.
But yeah, I think as well, that thing of playing live is one of the only times I think I am in the moment in life, really. I think and question things to the nth degree too much. But when I'm performing, that's one of the only times it all goes away. So it's probably like a version of therapy. Yeah, I've just put a new record out under Suncutter, which is my kind of alter ego. And it's the second Suncutter album. And it came out at the beginning of March because I was in Germany doing a live session for Radio 1, which is like Germany's version of Radio 1 kind of thing. So it was like, okay, let's get the record out and put it out there. Then anyone who hears the kind of radio thing can find it. But yeah, we're going to do like physical copies and stuff a bit later in the year, and another single from it. And I think with that album, what I'm most happy about is that it came about very organically. It wasn't like forced. I produced it and recorded it all myself. So it was what I wanted to do, not anybody else's influence. And I managed to get like kind of call in quite a few musicians that I really admire and respect, who've come and played on it. Rachel Goswell from Slow Dive, she sings on one track. I've kind of known her and the other members of Slow Dive kind of on and off for quite a few years. Gail from Turin Breaks, he plays saxophone on it on one song. And a friend of mine who really sadly passed away last year, but he does some backing vocals on a couple of tracks. So every time I hear it, it kind of reminds me of him and gives me a little smile. So yeah, it's quite a nice kind of almost time capsule, that album.